So, hello everyone, I'm Dr. Vipul Dutta from IIT Guwahati, and I offer this online course called Indian Business History via NPTEL, and this is our live session, so I'm happy to take any questions if you may have. So we can start with the first question, which is where can one read more about Indian entrepreneurs throughout history, their lives and motivations? And a learner here has said that I have read Geeta Piramal's book, but would like a more broader coverage of entrepreneurs and industrialists rather than only the top 10 to 12. It's a good question, but as far as business history goes, the field is just starting to emerge on a wide scale. So, apart from biographies, autobiographies of certain business leaders, and if you have the chance, then visiting perhaps a local archive or a state archive. Apart from that, insights on entrepreneurs or business leaders, apart from the 10 to 12 leaders that you've mentioned, is an onerous exercise. Of course, there are many scholars and historians who are currently working on writing a history of these business leaders, but we'll have to wait till such time as more literature of that kind emerges. So apart from Geeta Piramal's book, try and search for their histories online if you can. If you have any local community leaders as far as business is concerned, you can write a history of them themselves. But apart from that, use internet as creatively as you can. Try and log on to any online repositories of books and articles which can help you find histories of other business leaders apart from the prominent ones. But as and when more literature emerges, I'm sure people will get to read histories of other business leaders as well. Then the next question is, how does Indian business differ from foreign business? This is a very large question. In many ways, Indian business does not differ from foreign business because the Indian economy is part of the global economy. So what happens in India has an effect on global businesses, and what is happening in global businesses also has an impact on India, as you may be aware from recent developments in the world today. So Indian business is not very different from foreign business as it exists today. However, Indian history has some unique features, as we've discussed in the early part of this lecture, which makes Indian economy and Indian business slightly different from the ways in which it may have emerged in other parts of the world. So India's experience of colonialism for almost 2 centuries has given us a distinctive feature of the ways in which businesses is conducted in India. And our experience with colonialism also has an effect on the way in which we conduct our international relations with other countries. So in that respect, Indian business is different from foreign business. Also, foreign business is a very big term, so we need to break it down. Foreign business is composed of many domestic national units. So just as the Indian economy is part of the global economy, the American economy is also part of the global economy, so is the Chinese economy. Many countries of the African Union also participate in global business. So when we use the term foreign business, we have to be sure as to what we are referring to. Are we referring to different countries, or are we referring to business blocks, economic blocks, trading organizations? So a little more specificity is needed. Then a learner has also asked if he or she could get extra knowledge on the business history of India. Yes, of course. During the course of my lectures, if you have gone through those videos, there were sections in which I have outlined certain extra readings, suggested readings for this course. So if you get the chance, you can revisit those lectures and also access those readings from your local library or from online resources. So that could be another source for gaining extra knowledge on India's business history. So if any learners have further queries, please feel free to ask. So we can have a discussion on that. On the question of how to learn, well, if you go through the lectures and make your own personal notes, maybe that can aid your learning process. But if you can ask something more specific, I can perhaps give you more insights. But on how to learn, you will have to make personal notes, revisit the lectures again and again, search for the suggested readings that I have mentioned on the slides, and that's how you go about it. So, some of the learning outcomes from Indian business history is for learners to be able to understand that India is part of a global setup as far as economy, commerce, and trade is concerned. So, I hope this course would have helped learners to understand the globalized nature of economy and the nature of the economy in which India operates and contributes its services to the global system. So that is what one of the chief learning outcomes of this course is going to be. Also, because this is a history course, we will look at Indian history and see how domestic politics shapes Indian business and how global politics has shaped global business. And when we mean global business, we look at India's relations with some of the countries in the Western Hemisphere, India's relations with South Asia, Southeast Asia. So, for instance, when we discussed the history of ONGC, we discussed how India's energy diplomacy helps India further its foreign policy goals, and how technology transfers and collaborations on scientific projects also has a beneficial impact on Indian business. So those are 2 or 3 important themes that should be able to convince the learners that Indian business is not just an account of economic transactions, but it is a larger story of domestic and international collaboration. So a learner is asked how to get an idea about upcoming business. The best source is to keep up with your current affairs reading. So if you're reading newspapers, if you're tuned in to online news, that gives you an idea of the emerging trends in Indian and international businesses. So keep up with your readings of domestic politics, international politics. Keep yourself abreast of international developments, national developments as far as economy is concerned. Then another question is, when did Indian business start or originate? Well, in the initial part of the course, I outlined that this course will be a 20th century history of India's business and what happened after the 20th century. But this is not to say that there was no Indian business before that. Of course, India's ancient history is rich with examples of the ways in which ancient Indian kingdoms or regional areas in ancient India, medieval India, had thriving active links with the neighboring regions. So, for instance, the Chola Empire or kingdoms in the southern part of the country in ancient India had active links with what is now Southeast Asia. Even before that, the Indus Valley civilization had sites which were in active trading relationships with the northwestern part of the Indian subcontinent. So, Indian business history, when did it originate? Well, it originates when written history started becoming more widely available. Then you also have the instance of prehistory, but we don't have enough written evidence or records for us to clearly examine what the business or transactional landscape was during that period. But as far as answering the question of the origination of Indian business is concerned, I would say you can go as far back in Indian history as possible. Ancient India, medieval India, they are periods of our history in which very vibrant aspects of businesses existed between India and the neighboring parts of the world. Someone is not understanding the video lecture. Please give a best trick. I think the video lectures combine lecturing with text on the PowerPoint slides. So if you're watching or hearing those lectures, a good strategy to remember the details is to make your own personal notes, which is why the slides have been provided in those lectures. So if you're hearing the lectures, just hearing will not be enough. You will have to make your own notes. So if you write down your observations of the lectures and go over those notes again and again consistently, that is the best trick to understand video lectures. So on the issue of getting text transcripts, well, we are currently in the process of transcribing all those lectures. There has been a little bit of delay because of the prevailing health situation across the world. So as soon as those transcripts are available, which should be soon enough, we will let you know. We are on it. It's not audible because if there are any questions, I will respond to it. That's why it's not audible. So the exam has been postponed, as you already may have been notified. The fresh dates will be announced by NPTEL, so please keep checking into your portals. That is where the information will be given to you. So, on ancient books to understand our Indian business thought relating to Arthashastra and Tirukural, well, Arthashastra, from my limited knowledge of ancient India, is that it's not just a book about the Indian economy, it is also a great treatise on political relations and governance. So, if you're interested, you can read that on your own and form your own analysis of it. Regarding Tirukural, I'm not really aware of it because my specialization is 20th century Indian economic and political history. So I'm not entirely sure about what books can be accessed to understand histories of ancient period. So for that, if you can access any other NPTEL course that focuses on ancient political philosophy or Indian constitution, then maybe you can get answers there. But Indian business history, as I pointed out in the beginning of this course, will focus on the 20th century and 21st century history of Indian business. So naturally, our themes for discussion will be more current and contemporary because that's what my specialization and research focus is. For ancient India, you're free to read books that you can access online or in a local library and then form your own conclusions about it. But on specific parts of ancient India, I'm afraid I may not be able to offer you insights. So if any learners have any further questions, you can ask them at this moment. If you don't have any questions, we can bring this session to a close. So on the issue to deliver one lecture on the works of eminent scholars of business history, in the end, the last lecture the last few lectures in this course where I talk about thematic summaries of what was covered in this course, I give a brief bibliography on some of the important scholars on India's business history, and also some of the foreign scholars that have worked on India and India's relations with the West. So you can have a look at those slides and then use those slides to either access those readings or to think more about what they have contributed. Why I did not design a lecture detailing the views of every scholar was because we're still witnessing the rise of an emerging literature on Indian business. So to pick out a few and focus our lecture entirely on that would give us only a partial view of the ways in which the literature is emerging. So during the course of our lectures, I mentioned the name of a few scholars who had worked on India's early to late history as far as business is concerned. But to give a lecture on the precise views of every scholar who has worked on India's business history will not give us a synoptic and comprehensive picture of the ways in which Indian business has developed over the centuries. The way in which this lecture was designed was to give students a broad summary or a synoptic comprehensive view of the trends in Indian business. So this caters to history students. This also caters to students who may not have any background in history or politics. So it was a mix of a bridge course and an introductory course, so as students from different backgrounds could appreciate the true nature of Indian business, which is why a compact lecture detailing the precise views of every scholar will not be such a great strategy. Closing. Okay, so thank you for your questions and comments. We will bring this session to a close, and the fresh dates for the exam will be announced to you along with other details on the portal. Thank you.